Something extraordinary is happening in Canada's trade and political landscape right now, something that could reshape not only the future of Canadian farmers, but also the entire balance of power between Ottawa, Washington, and Beijing. China has just made a bold move, a public one, and it's turning heads in every capital around the world. Beijing's ambassador to Canada has gone on record with a stunning offer. China is ready to remove its crushing tariffs on Canadian canola. There's only one condition. Ottawa must agree to scrap its 100% tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. No threats. No leaks. Just a direct message from Beijing. A deal on the table that could rescue Canadian farmers, rebuild a struggling export sector, and redefine Canada's trade independence. But will Ottawa take it? Or will it, once again, choose to walk in lockstep with Washington, even as that path keeps costing Canadians billions? For years, Canada has followed the US lead on trade, and it's been costly. When the US imposed a 100% tariff on Chinese EVs, Canada joined in. At the time, the reasoning seemed simple: follow America's lead, stand by the ally. But that move, meant to look strong, turned out to be a self-inflicted wound. Because unlike Washington, Canada had a lot more to lose. Within weeks, Beijing retaliated with devastating precision, targeting one of Canada's most vital export industries, canola. Those tariffs hit the prairies like a hammer. Prices crashed. Farmers were left sitting on full bins of unsold grain. Export routes went silent. The ripple effect reached every corner of rural Canada. It wasn't the US paying the price. It was Canadian families, Canadian farmers, and Canadian consumers. Now, China is offering what looks like an off-ramp, a simple, pragmatic proposal. Remove the EV tariffs, and Beijing will lift its restrictions on canola. That's it. No geopolitical games, no hidden traps, no strategic ambiguity. Just reciprocity, the kind that used to define smart diplomacy. Yet, here's the dilemma. Ottawa has tied itself so tightly to Washington's trade playbook that any independent move looks like rebellion. The question is, does Canada have the courage to act in its own economic interest, or will it keep being a pawn in someone else's trade war? Let's take a closer look at how we got here. When Donald Trump returned to power, his administration doubled down on protectionism, declaring that Chinese EVs were a national security threat. Tariffs of 100% were slapped on every Chinese-made electric vehicle entering the US market. The stated reason was unfair subsidies, though the truth was simpler: American automakers couldn't compete with China's lower costs and faster innovation. But instead of charting its own course, Canada chose to follow suit, imposing identical tariffs, even though there was no proof of illegal subsidies, and even though Canadian consumers stood to benefit from cheaper, high-quality EVs. Chinese automakers like BYD, NIO, and XPeng are now selling vehicles in the United Kingdom and across Europe for the equivalent of $35,000 to $40,000 Canadian dollars. These are sleek, efficient, and environmentally friendly vehicles, cars that could make electric driving affordable for middle-class families. But in Canada, those cars are nowhere to be found. Why? Because Ottawa copied Washington's protectionist move, blocking them entirely. The result? Canadian consumers are paying more, farmers are earning less, and Canada's leverage in trade negotiations has all but disappeared. Tom Mulcair, the former NDP leader, and one of the sharpest political analysts in Canada, said it bluntly: Canada keeps getting dragged into other people's trade wars and ends up bleeding economically. It's a lose-lose situation, he warned. We follow the US on trade, impose their tariffs, and then get hit by US tariffs ourselves. Remember the steel and aluminum tariffs. The softwood lumber disputes. Time and time again, Washington hits first, apologizes later, and Canada keeps pretending it's partnership, not punishment. This time, though, things are different. Beijing's offer isn't just a diplomatic gesture, it's a test of sovereignty. It's a signal that China sees value in resetting relations with Canada on pragmatic terms. Rick White, the president of the Canadian Canola Growers Association, explained just how dire things have become. Farmers, he said, have harvested their canola, stored it in bins, and are waiting to sell. But with China, Canada's biggest buyer, effectively out of the market, prices have tanked. Nothing is going to China, he said. Seed, oil, or meal. The price is depressed, and it's not a good situation for farmers. The canola industry has been clear, the tariffs need to go. They don't want political speeches, they want their markets back. And let's be honest. Farmers shouldn't have to pay for political games being played thousands of miles away. This isn't just about economics, it's about principle. Why should Canada suffer collateral damage from American trade wars? Why should prairie farmers lose their livelihoods because Ottawa is afraid to deviate from Washington's script? The truth is, lifting the EV tariffs on China isn't surrender. It's strategy. Instead of blocking Chinese EVs, Canada should be inviting them in, not as imports, but as investments. Let Chinese EV manufacturers set up plants in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta. Let them build vehicles here, using Canadian resources, Canadian workers, and Canadian minerals. Canada has some of the world's richest reserves of lithium, aluminum, and rare earth elements, the very materials that power electric vehicles. Why export those raw materials when we can bring the factories to Canada and build the finished product ourselves? That's how you protect industries, not with tariffs, but with transformation. Imagine EVs built in Canada, by Canadian workers, in factories partly financed by foreign investment, but fully serving Canada's green industrial future. Made in Canada could become the gold standard in clean transportation, not just a slogan. That's vision. That's leadership. And that's what a modern trade policy should look like. But what happens if Ottawa refuses China's offer? What message does that send? It says Canada is still afraid to make independent choices. It says our farmers, our industries, and our consumers remain hostage to another country's politics. And worse, it tells Beijing, and the rest of the world, that Canada is too timid to lead. For decades, Canada's trade strategy has revolved around one simple principle: don't upset Washington. But in a world where the US weaponizes tariffs against allies and rivals alike, that strategy is outdated. Now, Canada has leverage. China needs canola. Canada needs EVs. The opportunity for a win-win trade reset is right in front of us. It's not about choosing China over the US. It's about choosing Canada over dependency. Mark Carney, Canada's Prime Minister, understands global finance and the long game of diplomacy better than anyone. If handled carefully, this could become a masterclass in economic balancing, a demonstration that Canada can cooperate with both superpowers without being dominated by either. This is more than a trade dispute. It's a moment that could define Canada's identity in a multipolar world. The offer from Beijing is not a trap, it's a chance for Ottawa to show that it can think and act independently. Because make no mistake, Washington will not save Canadian jobs. Beijing will not hand us prosperity. Canada has to build it, step by step, through smart deals that benefit Canadians first. Every time we align too closely with Washington, we end up paying for it, whether it's in lost markets, retaliatory tariffs, or political humiliation. The Americans play hardball, and they play for themselves. And that's fine, they should. But Canada needs to do the same. Lifting the EV tariffs could be the first real signal that Ottawa has learned that lesson. It's not capitulation, it's recalibration. The question now is, will Canada seize this chance or let it slip away again? Will we keep saying yes to policies that hurt our own farmers, our own workers, and our own economy just to look loyal? Or will we finally act like a country that knows its worth, that negotiates from strength, and that makes decisions based on its own national interest? Because this is the moment that could change everything. Beijing has extended a hand. The farmers are waiting. The markets are watching. And the world is asking, will Canada lead, or will it follow? This story is still unfolding, but one thing is clear. The next move belongs to Ottawa. And whatever decision is made will send a message that echoes far beyond trade. It will define whether Canada's future is one of independence or imitation. So, what do you think? Should Canada take the deal and lift its tariffs on Chinese EVs to restore its canola market and give consumers cheaper, greener options? Or should it keep following Washington's lead, even if it means another lost decade for farmers and families? Let me know your thoughts below. If you found this analysis insightful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into Canada's trade politics, global diplomacy, and economic strategy. And remember, your comment could be featured in our next video.